guys, so this is take 3 of this video. The first 2 times I wasn't wearing my glasses, and then I didn't want to put them on and I was too lazy to go get my contacts, but it transpires that making a video when you can't see the screen really sucks. So I've put my glasses back on and fingers crossed that 3rd time is a charm and I won't have to record this again. Also, in between the 2nd and 3rd take, I wrote a list that you can't really see. Oh, look, there's a list of bullet points of how to get through this video quite quickly, because the first 2 times I just rambled and nobody wants to hear me talk for that long. And so, fingers crossed this one's going to go smoothly and I'll be done and then I can post it and yay, 2nd video. So yeah. So this is the video that really made me want to come back to YouTube. I've been planning this video in my head for months and months, and so you'd think I wouldn't need bullet points, but whatever. And so I've been reading the comments that you've posted on my video below this and on my Tumblr for videos that you want, and so I'm going to start working on those, but I really wanted to get this one out of the way first because this was like my video that prompted my return. So what I really want to talk about is things that people say to people with eating disorders, people who are both just fresh into eating disorders, recovering, relapsing, whatever, that they think are really helpful but just aren't. Because I think a lot of people, or most people who haven't had eating disorders, have absolutely no idea what goes through the head of somebody with an eating disorder. And so they say something that they think is going to be quite helpful, is going to like spur their recovery on or make them want to get better, and it just makes things so much worse. And people with the eating disorder end up angry at the people who've said it, the people who've said it end up feeling guilty and confused and don't really understand. And so I thought I would make this video of things that people say that aren't helpful. So I've got 5 points. I'm going to work through them quite quickly. I've got my little bullet points on my phone. I can explain them and then roll on down the river. So number 1, commenting on people's bodies or their weights. Not helpful. And it generally happens in 3 stages. The first stage is the "you don't look like you have an eating disorder," which is just crushing to somebody who does have an eating disorder. And I know people think it's a compliment, because who in their right mind would want to look sick? Who in their right mind would want to look like they're dying, or like those pictures that we all have in our heads of like the anorexic that we all see? But when you say to somebody that they don't look like they have an eating disorder, in their head all they hear is "you're fat, you're not good enough, you're a failure, there's no point in you starving, in fact no, you should starve more." It just goes round. It's a really unhelpful, really unhealthy cycle that goes round your head when you think that people think you're fat. And I know that you don't look like you don't have an eating disorder doesn't equate to you look fat, but in somebody's mind, when they have an eating disorder and they're really irrational, that's exactly what it equates to. So let's not say that. The second thing that people like to say to people with eating disorders is comment on how small they are. So either "you're so tiny" in general, or "I can see your ribs," or "your arms are so tiny," or "your legs look like they're going to snap." And I know that that comes from a place of concern. Except what happens then is that the person with the eating disorder realises how much people are paying attention to their body. And when you shine the spotlight on somebody, they always want to do better. But better to an anorexic or a bulimic is be smaller, lose weight. And so I know it's the exact opposite of what you want, it's the exact opposite of what you're saying, but 9 times out of 10, commenting on how small somebody is will just lead them to losing more weight, because they suddenly realise that people are looking at them. In my case as well, what happens is when people comment on my body, if they say your arms, your legs, your chest, whatever, I look at that body part. It's been my arms recently, and I looked at it, and people were saying how small my arms were, but then when I started focusing on my arms, I started finding flaws in my arms and was like, no, I need to lose weight for my arms. And so pretty much the exact opposite of what you're saying goes through my head, and I will endeavour to lose more weight. And so telling somebody how tiny they look might come from a place of concern, but it's generally not very helpful. The third thing that people say to people with eating disorders concerning their weight is when they're in recovery, "oh, you look so healthy." And for some select people, generally further on in their recovery, "you look so healthy now" is like, yeah, I'm doing really well. But for most people, especially early on in your recovery, "you look so healthy now" equates to you're fat. You've put on weight, you're fat, I've noticed. People who are going through recovery notice every single pound they gain, especially at the start. And even though they know people notice them gaining weight. They'd rather not hear it, because you don't want to have it affirmed that people are noticing your body that you feel really uncomfortable in. And so when you tell people they look healthy, it just relates. No, not relates. I can't think of the word. Anyway, what comes through my head, through my ears, into my brain is, you're fat. And that's not what you're saying, but that's what I'm hearing. And so in general, to summarise point 1, is just don't comment on people's bodies. There's no need. There's really no need. An eating disorder runs far deeper than the external. You don't need to comment on someone's body to show you're concerned or you're surprised or anything else. We just don't need to. People with eating disorders are already really obsessed about their bodies. We don't need you to be as well. Point number 2, don't comment on what people eat. It is so unhelpful. When somebody has an eating disorder, everything they eat is under a magnifying glass that they put on their life. I don't need your magnifying glass as well. For instance, if somebody has an eating disorder and they're eating an ice cream, let them eat an ice cream, let them eat their bar of chocolate. Don't start going, oh, are you eating an ice cream? Because they will put that ice cream down because they will feel guilty. And then the step that they've made to eat something that they like, that is a fear food, is gone. You don't need to comment on what they're eating. If you comment on what somebody's eating because it's not what you expect of them, they're going to feel greedy. Second thing is that this thing that happened to me a lot is this whispered, I bought you some salad. Okay, you could just say there's food in the kitchen, or, you know, treat me like everybody else. Everybody else, when they get invited to somebody, again, there's food in the kitchen, there's pizza, blah, 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 there's all this food, help yourself. Or I'm making this, if you don't want it, there's other options. But when I come into the house, it's everybody else gets, I'm making all these things, Holly, there's some salad in the kitchen. There's some cucumber that I bought especially for you. I know you're trying to help, but you're singling me out. And you're also putting the magnifying glass onto my food. Now, I already do. I don't want you to, you know, judge what I'm eating or control what I'm eating either. Like, maybe I wanted sweet potato, but you've now made me feel like I can't turn around and say, oh, actually I'd like some sweet potato, because you're expecting me to eat salad, and so now I have to, because you'll judge me and you'll think I'm greedy if I eat anything else. Same goes for when you're shopping and you know somebody has an eating disorder and you go, oh ho ho, I know you're picking up that hot chocolate, but here's a diet version. Trust me, I know there's a diet version. People with eating disorders know there is a diet version. If I'm picking up the version that is not diet, it's because I have decided to. But also trust me that once you've told me there's a diet version, I will put my version down and either buy the diet version that I don't want, or buy neither, because I now feel like you think I'm greedy for choosing something that's not diet. The third thing, or maybe it's the fourth thing, I can't remember, under section 2, is when somebody's losing weight and they're doing it really unhealthily, I know what you want to do is help them go on a healthier path. But when somebody is being really unhealthy, the last thing you want to do is enable them by saying, oh, there's this diet that I've heard of that does this, and you'll still be eating, but there's this diet, because that makes them think, well, I still need to lose weight. And so you're enabling them by saying, oh, you can carry on dieting, but do it my way. Or saying, oh, you know what, because you're not really eating, why don't we try juicing? Because I've done this, people let me do this, and then I started adding more and more water to my juices and less vegetables, and nobody realised because they were still really bright, and I ended up losing weight. Don't let a person with an eating disorder get away with not eating. Don't say to them, oh, here are other ways to eat minimal food, or here are other ways to diet, here are other ways to lose weight but in a healthier manner. If somebody has an eating disorder, you do not ever need to be okay with it. You do not ever need to say to them, just do this diet instead, or juice instead. No, but it's fine to be clear that what they're doing is not okay, and it's fine to not condone cutting your calories. Don't enable them, because if you give them an inch when it comes to food, they will take a mile. If you give me an inch, I will take a mile. Number 3, please, please, please do not project your anxiety onto somebody else. Ever. Don't ever do that, because that's a shitty thing to do. But especially don't project your anxiety about one person's mental illness onto them. For instance, don't tell me that because I'm relapsing, I'm making you ill. Don't tell me that because I'm relapsing, you can't sleep or eat, or you're sick, or your anxiety's getting really bad, or you're having panic attacks. Because eating disorders or mental health feeds off guilt. And I say this so much, I say this all the time, especially on my Ask FM. Eating disorders feed off guilt. I feel guilty as it is. I am fully aware that people around me are worried sick. I know that, I really do. I don't need a reminder. I don't need somebody telling me that my illness is making them ill. And I don't think that we'd say it to somebody with a physical illness. Oh, your broken leg is making me ill. Your cancer is making me ill. And so don't do it to somebody with mental health problems. I know that it does make you ill. I know that the worry that you have about people you care about makes you ill. The worry that I have about people I care about when they're in a bad place makes me ill too, but I'm not going to project my shit, and I don't want to swear, but I couldn't think of another word, onto them. I'm not going to make their guilt even worse, because that's the last thing anybody needs. And personally, what happens then for me is that when you feel pushed into recovery, it generally ends in failure and a lot of resentment and anger towards the people you feel push you, and then you don't want to open up to them anymore, so then you close lines of communications that you worked really hard to have open. What happens with me as well is that people, when they're worried about my eating, I tend to start binging because I don't want to eat and I can't control my emotions because of the guilt, and so I start like a really, really bad binge purge cycle, which last time I went through that I ended up in hospital because of my heart. And so it just is not a helpful thing to say. I know that you think that maybe because they care, but people care about you so much. I care about my friends and family so much, and knowing I make them ill is just abhorrent to me. It's awful. I hate it. But people telling me doesn't like spur me into recovery. It just stresses me out, and so it's not helpful. Number 4, and I'm going to try and rush through this now. Don't encourage people to use fitness as a form of recovery. You cannot use fitness as a form of recovery, because you cannot start going to the gym. That's not going to cure your mental illness. Fitness is not a form of recovery. It is just swapping one obsession for another. And I've seen this happen so many times, and it is a really, really rare case that it actually works. Generally, what happens is this cycle. You have an eating disorder, your body is on a scale of 1 to a million at some point broken. And your body is not in a good place. Your heart, your bones, whatever it is, your body is not in a good place. You start exercising and somewhere down the line you're going to get injured. And the thing is that when you're using exercise and fitness as a form of recovery, you're using your exercise to justify the food you eat. If you get injured and you can't exercise, you relapse. And it's just a cycle that people go through and go through. You cannot start your fitness journey until your body is in a healthy place. You need to at least go through recovery. You need to get your body into a healthy place before you can start your fitness journey. Using fitness as a tool to recover right from the start is just a terrible idea. And when people suggest it, I just kind of want to shake them, and I'm like, what are you doing? This person could get really injured and then probably relapse, and so then they're injured and they're relapsing, and it's just really, really irresponsible. Let's not do that. Let's not encourage people to do that. Number 5, my 5th and final point, is telling people to try harder. When they are struggling, telling people, reminding them of how hard they tried at other things. Oh, but do you remember how committed you were to dancing? Yeah, I do. I danced for 15 years, I do, but dancing is not the same as recovering from a mental illness. Stop. Or, you tried so hard during school. Maybe you should put that effort into your recovery. I really am. School is not the same as mental illness. Nothing is the same as mental illness. Nothing is as difficult as mental illness. Nothing is as irrational as mental illness. Nothing is as... I've never been through anything that is as difficult as recovering from anorexia. That is why 15 years later, I am still here. Through so many recovery attempts and my life going up and down and going into awful and beautiful places, I am still here because there is nothing that has ever been this hard. And so telling me to try harder or likening my efforts in other things to my efforts in my recovery isn't helpful. You're just reminding me of all the things that I tried really, really hard at, and then my eating disorder was taken away. Oh, I used to dance, but now my body is knackered. Oh, I did really, really, really well at school, but my brain is like a bit nuts, and so working is really stressful. All these things that you lose because of your eating disorder that you tried really hard at, it just kind of brings them up, as well as making the person with the eating disorder who is trying feel like they're not trying hard enough. And so those are my 5 things. 5 things in 15 minutes, that's not too bad. But I want to close with one point. And this is not to the people who say the things, it's to the people who get angry, to the people with the eating disorders. Eating disorders are insane. They are irrational. They make us angry, psychotic, aggressive, manipulative liars. They make us into really not nice people. And the thing that eating disorders do most is they take away our rationale. They make us into monsters at some point. And the people we love and the people who are trying to help us really don't understand, because who does? If you haven't been through an eating disorder or at least studied one extensively, there is no way that you're going to understand how difficult it is. And so when people are saying all these 5 things that I have just listed, and all the other things that people say that are unhelpful, that they think they really are trying to help, they think it's going to help. And there is no point in flying off the handle at people, and trust me, I have done that. I have flown off the handle and yelled and screamed and sworn at people, and I've not talked to people for weeks because of things that they've said. And what I've realised on my journey through my life, which is a big metaphor and a bit cheesy, is that people can't help me unless I help them help me. You know, like, you can't recover unless you let yourself recover. People shoving you in hospital isn't going to make you recover. Only accepting that you need help and going into recovery is that's when you're going to recover. And that's helping the people who are trying to help you recover help you. And so in this case, people aren't going to understand. And even if you explain to you're blue in the face, and God knows I've tried, people still aren't going to understand. But you have to communicate. If things aren't helpful, then communicate that calmly. Don't swear at people or be angry. Just say it's not helping and I'm really sorry, I know you're trying to help, but it's not. Even try and explain as much as you can about why things aren't helpful. People won't be able to understand where we're coming from unless we try and help them. And so, as much as people can get on your nerves or trigger you or be unhelpful, that's never going to stop unless you calmly and rationally explain the irrational psychosis to them. And I think that's it. There might be more. If there's more, I will add another video at some point. I'll make a part 2. But they are my 5 things that people think are helpful that really aren't. At some point I'm going to make a list of 5 things that are really helpful to people, but I haven't quite compiled that yet. So bear with me on that one. Thank you guys so much for watching the video, and I will be back soon.